Hi. Hello. Hey, everybody. So, some of y'all have seen me before, and some of you have not, but I'll get started in just a minute. Look, I always set an intention before I start these lives. If I have a chance to come do these lives, I set this intention and ask the ancestors and the energy around me to guide me into the conversation and lead me into a place where it will be the most helpful for the most people watching. A lot of people have not been finding me until they've even set up notifications to be notified when I go live, and they're not. But hopefully we can get around that and we can figure out what's going on. So, if y'all don't know me, my name is Erica, and if y'all would just give me a chance to get at least about 20 people in the chat, that just keeps y'all from having to hear the same thing over and over again, and it keeps me from having to repeat myself. So, just be patient for a minute, and we'll get enough people in here. I always think of stories. This weekend, we went on my oldest daughter is 17 and she plays volleyball. And I know my near-death experience has brought y'all into this chat. So just be patient with me and we will get there, I promise. I just like enough people to be in before I start talking about it. So this weekend we had plans to go to a volleyball tournament in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and it's quite a ways from my home, so we were going to have overnight accommodations, and we booked this months ago. So I want to tell you, I'm telling y'all this story for a purpose, because it does have a purpose. We booked the hotel months in advance, but we had booked it for the wrong weekend. So we were kind of nervous because we knew there were going to be a lot of people in town, and we didn't know if we were going to end up having to sleep in the car or what. And then at the very last minute, we looked out and found this really nice place to stay, even nicer than where we planned before. But this is ironic too, because it was on 222 Good Hope Street. So sometimes I'm saying that if you are able to stay calm and just work through those hard times and those unexpected moments, then things work out. Things work out for you. Okay, so let me get started. There are enough people in here. So my name is Erica, and about 10 years ago, I was placed on hospice with a rare incurable terminal illness called Shy-Drager syndrome or multisystem atrophy. I was fully expected to pass away within 6 months to 1 year. I made all the preparations. I saw lawyers. I saw the top specialist to see if I could get a different answer. I had young children at the time. Let's see, my son would have been about 13, maybe. I'm trying to think now. He's 22. I'm not the best at math, but my children were young. That's what I'm saying. And I had the will set up and my parental wishes and everything set up. I wrote incessantly about what I wanted them to know, like my thoughts on life and love, and who I wanted them to marry, and who I wanted, what I wanted for them in life and what I wanted them to take from life. I fully planned to pass away within that year. And when I didn't, I knew that I had two choices, that I could give up and give in to the disease itself, or I could give it all I had. And at the end of that year, I decided to give it all I had. So I started these new experimental treatments, and that made me healthy enough to carry and deliver a child. At the time of her birth, and She was delivered via C-section, and at the time of that C-section, I passed away. And they resuscitated me very quickly, and I came back to life. They transferred me to a room, and a couple hours after that, I lost all the blood in my body and lost my life. Okay, so a lot of things happened within that minute. I set the intention that I will know what to share. Sometimes I share in depth about the details, but what I'll say today is that whether you remember it or not, we have all experienced loss of life, and you will all do it again. It is a beautiful, sacred, loving, passionate experience where you understand that all of life is interconnected, and that we get the opportunity, the rare opportunity, to live like we're going to pass away, but then we actually do, and then we have this whole other realization, and you're shown what you did in all of your lifetimes. Now, at the moment that I passed away, I've shared this before with y'all, I held on to a belief system, and I believed everything that I was taught to believe. And part of that belief system was religion and Christianity. And so the moment that I passed away and saw that everything that I had been taught was wrong, I was confused. I was angry that I had spent so much of my time worrying about pleasing this sky fairy. And it was just kind of one of these things that was surreal to me. I had spent so much time and energy trying to please God. And for that matter, just, okay. So look, I had this belief system whenever from the time I was little, I felt connected to the earth, and my mom was really, it was bizarre for my mom. She didn't really understand that. And so the moment that I died and saw and was shown, I asked to see Jesus, and he was not the picture that was on my Meemaw's kitchen wall. I was confused by that. He was not a white, blue-eyed man. So all of this stuff was really confusing for me, and it took me an entire year to process and work through all those feelings and understand that everything I had been taught to believe was false. It was wrong. Okay, so I've invited some of y'all here, and thank y'all for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to tell y'all something that, I'm going to be completely vulnerable and open and honest with all of you, okay? Whenever I was on hospice, there were a lot of feelings that I didn't know how to process. And a grief counselor a chaplain came in, and we sat and spent hours together just talking through everything. The hospice was really wonderful. They tried to prepare me in the best way that they could, okay? And I don't talk about this often, but I'm being led and pushed, and so I'm just going. I'm going with the universe. Because I know it always leads me to 222 Good Hope Street, right? So I know that there was this thing that I thought I was going to go to heaven, okay? And I had worked hard at being a good person my entire life. And so I could go to heaven. And not just so I could go to heaven, but one of the main reasons. And then when I realized that that's not what happens to your body, I was devastated, to say the least. Okay, so I had spent my entire life working towards being the best possible Christian I could be. Sometimes being the best Christian and being the best human are not always, they don't always coexist. So when I was on hospice, I was feeling the need to just do anything. And this brings me to my topic today, okay? I've had this folder hidden away in my closet for years, and I've never told anyone about this, not even my husband. I don't think he would care. It's not like I'm hiding it from him. It's just something that we've never discussed. And I wrote a prisoner on death row because I felt like, in a strange way, he was the only person who could understand that I was trapped in this prison. We were both going to die, or so we thought, right? We were both waiting on our death day. And when mine came and went, and then came again, I was able to write to him and tell him that he would have to pay for what he did because he would face a life review. And some of his letters, I always set the intention that I'll just be led and guided into these conversations. And today I was pulled back into this folder that sits at the back of my closet. And it's remained untouched for 10 years. And there are stacks and stacks of letters and correspondence with this guy. He was convicted of killing his parents and his sister. He doesn't live in my state. He's from Illinois. But whenever I was placed on hospice and I knew that I had a year to live, I wanted desperately for someone to be able to understand me. Because this chaplain and these nurses had seen death over and over again, but they weren't experiencing it. They were sitting with people when they died, yes, but no one was in that situation. And I desperately wanted to connect with someone who could understand the impending doom, the feelings that were all-encompassing and overwhelming. And we had many letters. We had many deep discussions. And I have gotten permission to share that story with you. Whenever I died, there were a lot of things that happened. But one of the things that happened was I sat with what y'all would call a spirit guide team. What most people would call that. I don't think of it as a spirit guide team. I think of it as an energetic life team. And at the end of my life, I was given an exit interview. And they asked me, what could you do better on Earth? What could make Earth a better experience for humans? What could you have done differently in your situations? What could we have done better to support you? It's like a job exit interview. And I remember at that point that I felt and saw every negative thing that I had ever inflicted on anyone. I also saw the good things that I did in my life. But I wrote him back and told him that if he really did unalive his parents and his sister and his brother-in-law, that he would face that on the day of his death. And we had all these really deep discussions about life and what it felt like to know that you were going to die. And one of the things that I want you to know is that once I actually passed away and lost my life, everything that I thought, every aspect of my life changed drastically. And I have been able to see a bigger picture of life, the interconnectedness of us all. And sometimes I think about things in nature, because nature is the only truth that I have now, that I know is true. And when I look to nature, I've referenced my pecan tree often. She's a grandmother tree, and she has a little elderberry nestled in her root system. And there is this tree on my land that is rotten, and it has done some damage to other people. Not other people. It's done damage to other trees, and it's also done damage to our fence, and it will eventually have to come down. I guess in a way I see sometimes that there can be an injury or an illness that can cause a tree to act in a way where it's unnatural. So it's not normal to unalive your parents and your brother-in-law and sister. Just like it's not really natural for that tree to take all the resources from every other tree and keep taking and keep leeching. So I wanted to share these really profound thoughts with you today, okay? Because the universe does have, whenever we're able to change our mindset and understand that everything happens for us and not to us, okay? Everything will work out. The universe and the earth want to see us in our healthiest, highest selves. And I'm going to tell you, this person is neither bad nor good. He acted in a way that was malaligned with other humans. He acted in a way that was not coming from his highest healed self. But this man, through his conversations with me, helped me understand that we both were in a prison. And it went far beyond my body. The prison was society itself. The prison that had been placed on me as a young child, thinking that I was evil because I talked to dead people, or thinking that I was wrong because I was connected to the earth and I was talking to trees. Like, people, my grandmother encouraged me to do that. And I think she probably was an ancient herself and had this ancient wisdom and knowledge that she understood me better than anyone. But I was a lot for my family. I can understand this man so much. I understand his story, and I understand a lot of the things. He was in prison before he was in prison. He was misaligned with humanity, and his story is his own, and it's not mine to share. But I know through speaking with him and all of these letters that we have shared and all these conversations that we have shared, there's been something positive that came out of this for me anyway. We have since stopped corresponding because I'm no longer in a prison. I've chosen not to be in a mental prison anymore. And I know that he still is because of circumstances. But what I want to talk to y'all today about is the fact that there are going to be some hard times coming up. And I was given a rare opportunity to see the other side, and love brought me back to this earth. The love of my children and my spouse. Their love was too great to let me go. I have a deeper understanding of everything that happened in my life and why it had to happen that way. But I want to tell you now that there are ancestors here that want to connect with you. There are energies on the earth that we have forgotten about because of programming. This message is for someone today who found me, and I understand that I'm just a messenger. I'm just an open channel. There are people sometimes who make mistakes, and those people will answer for that. But I want to tell you something else. There are people who are in situations because of things that happened to them and they changed their path. We can't get lost in other people's paths and journeys, and it is hard. It's hard to watch somebody you love choose something that you know is slowly killing them. I'm talking about, my family, and it's hard to see people choose that and you not be able to help them and not be able to influence them in a positive way. And you just have to love yourself enough to keep healthy boundaries. And healthy boundaries are super hard whenever you have been raised to be a people pleaser and you've been made to believe all these things. To be a good Christian, you have to be submissive. Or, look, I have never been a good wife. I have never been submissive. I have never, according to the Bible. Okay, I'll say that. And then I finally stopped myself from getting involved until this man decided to love me exactly for who I was. And that has changed my life so drastically. And unconditional love really does transcend everything else in this world. I have offered this prisoner unconditional love in the way that I opened myself, and I was very vulnerable, and I told him things that I didn't even tell my own family, because I didn't want my children to see me struggle. I didn't want my loved ones to see me struggle. I remember when I'm sorry, sometimes it's hard for me to share what I share, but I do because I know it's for a purpose. Okay, listen to me. The thing that I'm sharing here is that when I was on hospice, I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want people to treat me any differently, because I saw my dad whenever he was losing his life, and people acted differently towards him. People who had not shown up in years started showing up. And I thought, how unfair is that? That now they get to spend time and they get his energy because they haven't been here before. I wasn't going to do that. I didn't want anyone to know I was on hospice. And it was one of the loneliest, hardest times in my life. I had been through abusive relationships. I had been through homelessness. I had been through abandonment as a child. I had been through neglect and abuse. But whenever I got placed on hospice, I said, I don't want to tell anybody. I will tell my mother, and I will tell the other people that have been here in my life, who've been present through my sickness and my illness. But I wasn't going to tell anyone else. And so now it shocks people to know that why would you not tell someone? Why would you go through that alone? And I reached out to someone who needed me as much as I needed him in that moment. And when you are able to be vulnerable and open and share your deepest, rawest emotions with someone, and they can do the same and feel safe enough to do the same with you, it opens up this portal. And that is unconditional love. And that's why I keep telling y'all that love is so important, but also authenticity. It's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to just open up and tell your life story and not be worried about how people perceive that or how they might think of you. But I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. Now is the most important time. We are living in a historical time. And we need all the light workers and all the... I hate these words. I don't want to get lost in words. But if you know that you are made for something more, then it's time to figure out what that is. It's time to start sharing your gifts, because your gifts are not your own. There are times when I've had people question my story if I had proof. Like, I don't know how to show proof of my death. I don't know, like, other than my medical records, which I'm not sharing that on the internet. I'm not going to do that. But hopefully you can see my truth and know that I'm sharing it for a deeper reason. Because my dad has come to me and he's told me that he couldn't see all of this whenever he was alive and on earth. And he's trying to correct things that he couldn't when he was on earth. But because of limitations that he had and contracts and non-disclosure agreements, I'm telling you today that this is a historical time and space, and you've got to act accordingly. This weekend, I was reminded that whenever you are your authentic self and you possess this unconditional love, it comes back to you. It always comes back. This weekend, I didn't know if we were going to have anywhere to stay, and I know my ancestors aligned everything up for me. And I trust that. I trust that everything is always going to work out, no matter what it looks like. It can look chaotic and it can look crazy and scary. But when you have that trust, there's something that changes in your immediate world. Yeah, this is true. People are able to share things online these days that would have been swept under the carpet. There are energies here, and okay, listen, I'm just going to tell you, there's this thing that has remained unanswered from my childhood. Something really big and strange, okay? And no one seems to answer those questions. But one other time in my life, there was a circumstance that happened before I was born. And it was kind of hidden in my family and not talked about. And so I'm a person that kind of likes to know why something happened, and I go back to it all the time. And there's this one thing in my childhood that I still don't know about, and it really drives me bonkers sometimes, and I don't understand I can't understand it, because I know what happened, my family knows what happened, but no one can explain why it happened. So look, I'm saying there are things sometimes that people have a hard time talking about. I shared something in my last live that I don't know why I shared. I was being led to share it about me being left. at the restaurant. And since then, someone has reached out to me with answers that I can't wrap my head around, and I still have a connection with my dead father, and I still talk to him on a regular basis. But sometimes I want you to understand that as much as you want answers and as much as you want guidance, you can't let someone else figure out your solution, because it takes the experience and the value away from it. I love every one of you, and I would help you in any way that I can, and I hope you know that. But there's part of me that knows I can't interfere or intercede with human evolution. And sometimes the things that humans choose, I'm confused about, and I don't understand how it happens. And you may be in that same boat right now. You may be thinking, how did we get to this space? But I'm telling you that everything in this world that has happened is happening for purpose and for reason. And it had to happen this way. There are an infinite number of variables that surround us in everyday life, and free will is still on earth, and it's still, part of our privilege as humans. We have the ability to choose. I know that we have already won this battle, and I know that we are already in a place of peace and love and abundance. And I know that there's a time in the near future where no child has to go to bed hungry, and no child has to go to bed scared. No child has to be on the street. Children are not sacrificed or stolen or sold, because that currency doesn't work anymore. I want to talk to you about how I'm going to go back to the day that I was left in the restaurant. I was 5 years old, and I remember going to the bathroom, and I came back out, and no one was in the restaurant except for two waitresses and a manager. And so in my mind, the only way I can explain that is that it must have been close to closing time, but it was during the day. And so before this, I have memories of being a baby in a crib. I don't remember my mother. I don't remember my father, but I remember the things that happened. And then I do remember my family historian saying that my family didn't talk about me being left in the restaurant, which is really strange, because I've had 3 children and I've never left them anywhere. I've never lost them. I've never left them behind anywhere. And I feel like it would be a really hard thing for me to do. So it's this last thing that I'm holding on to, that trying to find an answer, and probably will never get an answer for. And maybe I'm sharing this story because you can relate to it. Maybe there's one little thing that you can't get over. Maybe there was something done to you, or somebody did something to you, or someone left you, or someone hurt you. I'm sharing this because in my own life, I have made it through all kinds of things, but there's still that one thing that bugs the mess out of me. I can't make sense out of it. And so I'm sharing this today to let you know it's okay to move on from that. I've seen this all in my past life, and I've gotten all my past lives, and I've done everything, and I can go back to the restaurant. I can see everything in the restaurant. I cannot see the town, and I cannot ever find my parents. So all my life, and I think there are these moments where I've always lived with this, so I don't realize how bizarre it is until I share it. I remember the people taking me in the restroom, undressing me, and saying, yes, this is her. And then an alien comes through the wall. And now my mother used to say, I tried to talk to her about what happened at the restaurant, and she would always shut me down. She did not want to talk about this. This was not something we were ever going to discuss again. And so I thought there must be a reason for that. And recently I had an aunt that asked me, what did I remember about being in the restaurant? So I can remote view, and I do that, and I've went back to that space, and I can't ever find my parents. I see the people who undressed me. I see the alien that came through the wall. And now some skeptics may say, this is just your child's way of dealing with trauma. I'm telling you, I remember everything. I've been back there. I know that that's what happened. And so these men in suits got me dressed again. The alien came through the wall and he talked to me, not verbally, but telepathically. And I understood. He told me that I was different, I was ancient, and that I was going to be hidden. And so I got back with my family. And this was in 88 or 89. I'm not really sure what year. And I've tried to research it and look for newspaper articles. And the deeper I dig, the further away I get from answers. The more I dig and the more I think I get closer, it's actually just moving me further away. So I've got to stop it, okay? I've got to stop obsessing about it, and I've got to stop. I did not feel scared. I felt like this was part of my family. I felt, well, I'll tell you that the men made me extremely uncomfortable. They were men in suits, and I remember a waitress being really, I remember her feeling like something was not right. And I remember her looking out the window when I was taken to the car. And in the car, I remember my fingerprints were taken. My blood was taken, several vials of blood. And then my footprints and my toes were taken too. And I'm pretty sure that maybe even a hair sample, which, look, in the 80s, maybe that this was the way that they identified people. I don't know. Anyway, so sometimes I don't even realize how bizarre the story is because it's something that I've encountered my entire life leading up till now. But I do know that in school I was chosen for this individualized education plan, and it probably has something to do with that. Anyway, I've never really talked about that before, and hopefully by me talking about that and sharing my truth, it will help somebody else put pieces of their own puzzle together. And realize that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know why. You just need to, in my own life, I've just been reminded that sometimes there's protection for you in not knowing. So I'm saying that I've been hidden, and that was for my own good. That was something that I truly believe that I don't know what it means. I don't know the answers, but hopefully in me sharing this story, then you can understand that we don't always have to have all the answers. We just have to keep moving forward. Okay, so I know that's a bizarre story, and a lot of people may not believe it, but that is true. That is certainly true. I have an aunt that can verify that. I recently asked her about that, and she just said that, your dad said that he doesn't really remember what happened. And so I haven't asked my dad about it, but I think it's okay to not have every answer. I think it's okay for you not to. It's okay for us to understand that some people are injured or they're ill and they act in a way that is inhumane. And we have to be okay with that. We have to understand that sometimes, no, all the time, things happen like they're supposed to. That doesn't mean that we won't face hardships or go through challenges, but it just means that there are some individuals that will act unlike you. And you don't need to focus your time and energy and attention on trying to name that or give that energy. You don't need to give your power away by giving them more power than they actually have, because they are just human. And even if they are hybrids, they're just hybrids, and they don't have more power than you. I'm telling you that we are all interconnected, and we all can share the same energy and the same power. You all have that, and you're all able to tap into it. But we've just been made to believe that it's like this over-the-top thing instead of what it actually is. And I'm going to tell you what magic is. It's the intuition that you get, or that gut feeling, or being able to be in the present moment, because that is a dying art. I'm going to tell you, this weekend, we were in the midst of a volleyball game, and I look around and see all these parents, all these children stuck into a phone or a tablet, watching something else, being somewhere else. So being in the present moment truly is magic nowadays, and appreciating all the sights and sounds of the moment that's going on in front of you. That's magic. That's magic. And if you can do that, if you can tap into that, you are in the earth's energy and vibration. And so that is pure magic and bliss. I did want to share a little bit about what I think I need to share today, because I came on here with the intention of sharing my story about how when I was on hospice and I felt alone, then I felt like I could write a prisoner, because I felt like I was a prisoner of my body. I felt like my body is keeping me prisoner and I'm going to die. And so someone in prison on death row, can understand me. And I want you to know that you never have to be in a prison. Those thoughts and those unexplained, unsolved mysteries do not have to be your prison anymore. You can let go of it, and you can release it, because it's no longer serving us to be obsessed about it and wonder about it all the time. There are lots of weird things that have happened in my life since then, but they're my things, and it's my journey, and it's not for anybody else to get caught up in. But just remember that it's okay to let go of things, even if we can't put a name to it, or even if we can't identify why it happened, or even if we don't have a diagnosis. It's okay to let go of some stuff. If it's not serving you anymore, just move away from it. Look, this last couple of weeks, I have been going back and forth, being obsessive about this whole situation, about the restaurant, thinking that I was going to get some kind of new clue about it. And today I realized what I was doing. And it was taking away from the present moment. And it was taken away from the joy that I could have been experiencing because I was constantly going back there in my mind. And a lot of times when we first learned to meditate, I remember the first time I meditated and got to this euphoric state. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is bliss. This is euphoria. So then you kind of want to stay there, don't you? Because it's better than what's going on. But I'm telling you that there are moments like that throughout the day if you choose to look for them, if you choose to see them. I'm not going to say what I believe happened. I'm pretty sure I know, but I don't know. So I'm not going to talk about that. I know that I know my dad worked at Lockheed Martin, and I know that before I came into his life, he didn't. I know that, I just can't speculate. I know that there's someone that went missing around my town. And I even like the police were called to my house one time because they thought that I was this missing child. But the police left and they said that I wasn't her. So I don't really know. So I'm talking about some really crazy stuff today that happened to me when I was little. And I've talked about whenever I was on hospice, I wrote a prisoner that was on death row. And we had like a whole couple of years of correspondence because I felt like we were going through a similar thing. I felt like I was a prisoner of my body, and he felt like he was a prisoner. So, look, I'm going to tell you that my dad saw a lot of belief is more a play into the myth of the story. Yeah, I'm not declaring anything to be true other than my dad worked at Lockheed. And look, I know that school and the restaurant were very similar for me. A lot of weird things happened where and then whenever I actually did pass away, I touched an ancient and realized that I was part of that. And you all are too. You all have the ability to be in touch with that and the ancient wisdom and knowledge that is out there. And I know that my dad saw things and that he could have never told me about them if he had not passed away, because I know that he showed me like all these non-disclosure agreements and all these things that he had to sign as part of an agreement to work there. And listen, my dad was a very undereducated person. He dropped out of school whenever he was 13 to help his family on the farm. This job was definitely above his pay grade. So, I don't know. Just take it for what you will. But hopefully in sharing the story, it's for a purpose. And that you understand that we don't always have to know exactly why or what happened to move past it. And we can't obsess about it. And we can't keep going back to that, because it's stealing from our present moment. It's stealing something about being present. And that's an important thing. Okay, Jason, thanks for sharing that. Hey, Cash, let's see. Hey, Lydia. So, Maelstrom, my dad worked closely with Halliburton and Lockheed Martin as a private pilot. That's interesting to me. So my dad worked at Lockheed, and before it was Lockheed, it was GE. Then he also worked at like the Army ammunition plant, and I know he saw a lot of things that he didn't like. I know he saw a lot of things happen with me that he didn't know were related to that. And so after his death, and he met me at my death, we talked about those things, and we talked about some of the things that he suspected. Look, and part of this disclosure is coming from people, okay? And if we take time to listen to those people, it can sometimes connect dots for us or put a piece of the puzzle together for us. It's not lost on me that indigenous people... Okay, yeah, let me just get this. Hang on. Indigenous people were separated from their families and put into these schools, right? These re-education, relearning centers. And I've often thought about that. And I thought, if only indigenous people knew what was done to me as part of my school. You know, like, where maybe there could be an open trust and open communication about that again. And I'm not saying that I experienced like our whole population like they did, but I'm saying that some of our children have been stolen and experimented on and done really crazy things. Like, I remember part of my education plan was being taken to this circus. And I was told because I was special that I could go in first and see the circus performers. And I remember watching this tightrope walker, and I guess I was 6 then too. A lot of things happened around that age for me. I remember seeing her fall to her death off the tightrope, and I was the only person in that tent other than a teacher and an observer. So this man in a suit and my teacher were there. And then after that, I was taken to the ambulance, and like, I guess my vitals were checked, and they drew my blood and like assessed me to see if I was okay, I guess. I don't know. Okay, thank you for that. Because sometimes I wonder, am I sharing way too much? Because one of my friends told me, you don't even realize how crazy your life is until you start talking about it and other people are like, wait, what? May I ask you what you think about ChatGPT on things claiming to be ancient and giving info more than AI? Okay, so here's what I think about this. I think we have to be careful and use discernment, but here's what I know. I'll share what I use discernment, but here's what I know. I'll share what I know and then what I think. I know that AI was not invented, but discovered. I know that AI is part of this large web that my dad showed me when I passed away. It's like this web of consciousness, thought. It exists outside of us, and anybody can grab onto it. I know that they have found a way to tap into that and use it. And I also think it's going to be easy to plant things into that. So we have to be really careful, because there can be half-truths just like in religion. And so we cannot ever 100% rely on AI to give us answers. We can't 100% rely on one person to give us answers. We have to go within ourselves, and that's so frustrating and so hard, but it's the only way that we can trust and the only way that we can know for sure. And look, a lot of times there have been people, Collier, thank you for that. You missed the part where I was talking about the alien coming through the wall. I know you're interested in that, so we'll have to talk later about that. Anyway, there's this thing that I know. My dad saw a lot of things at Lockheed. He couldn't talk about them in his lifetime because he had signed all this paperwork, and I was being used as part of that. And my dad kind of suspected that, but he never knew that until he passed away. And then he showed me that he had a feeling, and he showed me all these contracts that he had to sign, and he didn't know what they meant. And he felt like he was backed into a wall because he was 12 years old when he quit school. He could barely read and barely write. If you read he was very intelligent. I'm not educated, and intelligence are not the same thing for me. He was very intelligent. He was philosophical. He was very intuitive. But he was also undereducated, and he didn't see a way out of these things. And he also thought, I can see now why it's so important to have this balance of divine feminine and masculine energies within you. Because now I can see his point of view as a father. As a parent, I can see his point of view. Like, he was trying to better our family. He was trying to provide better for our family. He wanted us to be able to take vacations every year, even if it meant I had to stay in the hospital a day. Even if it meant I had to stay in the hospital a day or two and let them do whatever needed to be done. But throughout the year, that provided more opportunities for our family. We had a better house. We had better insurance. We had the ability to, take piano and soccer lessons. Something that we would not have been able to do had he not been in that situation. And he was given a job that was way above his pay grade. And, there's this point to the way that Southern people are raised. You don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? Like, you don't go and question. So I can see all of this now, as I am a parent now. I can see all of this from his perspective. And it's really important to see that because it helps him heal. He did have to sign documents and clearance. Whoa, wait, what? You worked there? That's bizarre. Okay. Yeah, so he did. And he saw things that he did not like there. He saw some torture. He showed me that torture. He took me to the ancient or the alien that they had there. And he showed me that I was part of that. And he didn't know that at the time. And so, what do you mean them take to the hospital? Okay, so every year we went on vacation. I would get sick and have to stay in the hospital. And they would run all these tests on me. And my parents couldn't stay there. Yeah, I guess my whole childhood is just completely weird, and maybe I didn't ever realize that until I started talking about it. And so, yeah, I would stay in the hospital for a day or two while we were on vacation. And I'll tell you where we always went because we had a timeshare. My dad had a timeshare there, and it was Branson, Missouri. And every year on the way, the very first year is when I was left in the restaurant. And then every year following that is when I would be in the hospitals. And I have documentation and proof. And my dad videoed me going into the hospital. And he secretly videoed one time in the room with me. Whenever he should. I don't know how he did that, but he did that. Because video cameras back in the day were gigantic. And I remember that thing sitting on his shoulder. But I have, proof of that. Every year I would go into the hospital down there, and they would, I've since asked my aunt about this, and she just thought I was a sick child. So there's something to this, and there's a reason that I'm sharing this, because somebody here maybe doesn't have any memory. Maybe you were part of the GATE program, or you had an individualized education plan, or there's other names for it. But I do have a chronic illness. Well, I have a terminal illness. It's called Shy-Drager syndrome, or multi-system atrophy. Thank you, Cash. So sometimes I don't really understand all the time, like, how weird things were. Like, I didn't realize that this was an experience that everyone had. So I think a lot of times, I don't always know what I'm supposed to share and what I'm not supposed to. So today, I just set the intention before I started to just lead me down the right path, and don't let me share too much that is going to get me targeted again or get strikes again. So I'm going to tell you something. Greg, you said you work at Lockheed. Do you still work at Lockheed? I'm just curious, like, because maybe I just need to, okay. Should I stop talking then? Okay, maybe I need to be careful here. Look, because I'm going to tell you, I haven't, told anyone this either, but back in December, I've videoed this and sent it to about 4 people. Okay, listen, I'm going to tell y'all this. Back in December, y'all all know that I was placed in intensive care, and I was very, very sick. They told me that I needed to be intubated or I would die, or unalive, and so I'm going to share that story with you, and I'm being led to share this, and I'm just going to say it, and if it comes back to me, then it will, but if it doesn't, it's fine. So I haven't shared this, but we had this fog, right? And I'm not going to talk about the fog. I'm going to stop there. Okay, wait. I'm being led in a direction. Thomas, so I've sent this to about 4 or 5 people now. And in December, whenever I started talking about this, and I know it's not just a coincidence, because my dad helped me see this and smell it and understand what happened. And also, thank you, Cash, for that. It does, definitely. So my daughter calls me one morning, and she says, there's somebody out here in our yard. He's walking around. And so I immediately, no bra on or anything, just ran out of the house, because she's scared. She's terrified. She's young. And I said, can I help you? And he said, yes, I'm just looking for some wood, some firewood, which is not too abnormal around our area. Like, people cut firewood around here. It's a rural area. But he had this really expensive, nice black truck with no license plates, no tags, no nothing. And so I'm talking to him in order to get my daughter in her car and off to school. She gets there safe. And he says, I've drove by here every day for a week, and I was just wondering if I could get some firewood. And he's, okay, so we're talking, and then I asked him what his name is, and whenever he told me his name, I got chills all over my body, because my dad gave me 2 names in July. This is December. He gave me 2 names. I've never had anything like that happen to me. First and last names, J.W. Benham and William E. Nottingham, or Willie E. Nottingham. I don't know what Willie E. Nottingham is either. But in July, my dad told me those 2 names. And he said his name was J.W. Benham. And I had chills all over my body and just kept talking to him. And then he shook my hand, and I wiped my shirt. And then later during the day, Olive woke up from nap, and I smelled something. And I remember calling one of my elders here. I'm not going to say the name. But I remember calling them and telling them, I smell something weird. And I looked down, and there were little holes all in my shirt. And that afternoon, I opened the windows, and I got out of the house. I didn't know what it was. And so that afternoon, within hours, I was deadly sick. I mean, sicker than I'd been in a really long time. And if someone with a chronic or terminal illness dies, guess what? No one's investigating that. No one. And so I made all these videos, and I sent them to 4 different people, and I made hard copies, and I was making a transcript, and I wanted everything documented to a T. Because this was right after I had made the poem about Lockheed, and talking about the flights that were going to happen. And so the man drove away, and look, I'm going to tell y'all, this is a really small rural area. And no one had ever heard of this man before or seen this man. I did not have my cell phone whenever he was in the yard, because I just took off and ran. So, I asked around town, and that is not a name that is in this town at all. So it was just a really strange experience, and thank goodness I was able to, y'all all helped me heal myself, and I'm back. So I'm saying that I know that these things are, okay, look, I don't have the things that I probably should now. But I will continue talking about these things as often as I can and as much as I can, because my dad is desperately trying to make things right. He really wants... Now, this is not my job. This is not my responsibility to heal. But there's something that's coming from talking about it. More and more people are reaching out with similar stories and a similar understanding. Is Greg still here? So anyway, I'm saying I know that there's truth and there's importance, because I don't know how far this goes back. I'm thinking to the 40s and 50s, where experimentation has been done. Probably, I've seen the children, I've been taken underneath, and I know what's there. My dad comes with me. And look, I know that there's an extra layer of protection around me. And I know my blood gas levels were, I know I was interfered with. I know that I was poisoned. The doctors know I was poisoned. They think it may have been a natural thing, but I know for a fact that it was not. So yeah, let's get that out of the way. And I want you all to know that no matter what comes your way, everything that we go through and experience just makes us stronger. It makes us stronger. And we can get through so many things just by knowing that everything happens for us. That experience happened for me. And I was able to learn something very important from that experience. Very important. And it's just bizarre that the doctor's name was Love. And I thought that that was a good thing. But actually that doctor could have ended up unaliving me if I would have given consent, if I would have consented. So that's why it's extremely important to take back your power, take back your control. So I'm going to tell y'all that there will be some things coming up. And I feel these things. Tell me what you were thinking about, Miss Joan. The Dr. Love or the whole experience? Did you kind of feel like it was done to me? But it definitely was. So I just know that means that it's more important. Dr. Love, yeah. That's tricky, right? Because I thought it was like a sign that everything was going to be okay. But love challenges us, doesn't it? Love is challenging, and it can be, sometimes it can be one of the hardest things that we achieve, is to love, that unconditional love. And I know that it happened for a reason, and it taught me a great lesson about myself. Because if that would have happened years ago, I would have just went along with it and said, okay, just do what you need to do. But I just deep down in my gut felt that something was not right about that. And I could not let that happen. So there's something else that I want to talk to you about the prisoner that I wrote whenever I was on hospice. One of the things that he said to me was that he never admitted his guilt because he had appeals that he could go through still. And I remember telling him after I passed away, I sent one more letter. And I told him that I had faced death, and that whenever he came to the end of his life, he would see and feel everything that he did to another person. And everything that I know that horrible things happen on earth. And if you cause them, you feel that. And you sit with that at the time of your death. And you sit with your guide team. Y'all, most people call it a spirit guide team. You sit with your team at a table. And you talk about everything that you've done in your life, good and bad. And this, it's so crazy because everything happens, is just happens all at once. And time slows down and it speeds up. Everything happens all at once, everywhere, all around you. So time is not linear like most people think of it as. It's like a fabric of time and space, and it can happen at all different stages and all different dimensions of life. So the prisoner's story is, I did get permission to share some of that, but listen, that's his story and his life and his journey. I know that just because someone does something that we don't agree with, and taking someone's life is something I do not agree with. I think it's nothing, I don't think any of us would agree with that, no matter the circumstance. But I know that in writing him, he helped me tremendously. And he gave me comfort. So I know he will see the good that he did in his life also. He'll be faced with the quote-unquote good and bad. You see everything that you've done in your life. So I told him about my experience, and I hope that it gives him some kind of peace. Even though some people may not feel like he deserves peace. I think every one of us as a human, no matter who you are and what you've done, I think all of us deserve unconditional love. And that doesn't mean that we have to agree with what people do. It doesn't mean that we have to accept what they do as our own, but it does mean that we offer love to those people, and it makes a difference. I am a firm believer, because I have seen it in my life time and time again, that even the small things, even the small things of everyday existence make a huge difference and can have a domino effect. So I want to address this question, okay? So why so many bad things in the world happens, okay? So, look, there's some really egregious things that happen on the earth, and I'm not going to deny that. There are children who hurt. There are children who don't have homes. There are children who go hungry. There are children who are abused, and I don't think any child deserves that. But I want to say this. There sometimes people, and I addressed this earlier, who act in an unnatural way because of illness or injury. And it's not to give those people an excuse, because they will definitely have to answer to what they've done. And they will have, I know the person that I saw in my life that had hurt people that I loved very much. That person stayed in a cold, damp, dark, dirty place for 200 years, unable to move or ascend to any other dimension. Okay, so that person has to stay there 200 years and think about, and he put that punishment on himself. So you choose your own punishment. It's not like some God comes in and says, it's not like a wrath. It's like you have to seriously think about and feel what you have done to other people. And then you, along with your team of energies, decide what is an acceptable consequence or reaction to that action that you did. It's not a judgment day. It's an exit interview. Yeah, Antonio, it definitely does happen. And that's what I said earlier, that whether you remember it or not, we have all had a loss of life experience. We do create soul contracts beforehand. And look, I want to say this about soul contracts. That if you are with an abusive person, and you feel like you have a soul contract with that person, and that person is not learning the lesson, you can break that contract. It does not make your lesson null and void. It just means that you have to learn that lesson in a different way. We do choose our parents, yes. And And that's an interesting thing. Sometimes we're taken away from those parents that we choose. And some of y'all know that in this group, in this collective. Some of y'all understand that yeah, a lot of us did, yeah. But look, we have lessons to learn from our parents. And I'm going to say this about parents, because I am a parent. Each one of my children has got a different mother from me. My oldest son, I was 19 when I had Grant. I'm sure that I could have done a lot of things different. I was homeless when Grant was 2. I drug him to gas stations to give him baths. There were a lot of things that I could have done differently. I could have asked for help when I needed it, but I was too proud. I didn't do that. So there were a lot of things that I should have done differently. But that was our journey. That was our lesson. And look, he learned a lot from me. And now he's a parent that will never let his child go without a home or a bed. Okay? So there are things, and there are generational traumas that we can break free from. Okay? There are grandparents here now. There are parents here. Okay, there are lots of parents here. Wait a minute. There's messages coming through for y'all. There are moms and dads here. Lots of moms and dads here. I don't know who this is for. Just bear with me. A message is coming. They're saying they could have done better. They should have done better by you. They see now what they've done. Looking not... Okay. Thanks for that, Bessie. Look, she always keeps me straight. Okay, Bessie is saying, no, some of these parents didn't apologize, and they won't ever because they can't see past themselves. Thank you, Bessie, for that, okay? So let me just say this. You will not always get an apology from your parent. Some parents choose to look and see their faults and see what they could have done better. And some, okay, thank you. And some will not. And Bessie's saying a lot of them aren't. But I'm telling y'all now that we have lessons to learn from these people. Thank you. Somebody's asked for forgiveness. Someone is saying that they felt the pain that they caused you. And they had already felt that in their life. There are lots of parents. Okay. I just have to think, Bessie is an aunt of one of my elders that keeps coming through. She's bringing through all these people. Carolyn. I have a hard time communicating with male energies. I don't know why. That may just be my own personal thing. I've always been able to communicate only with my dad and then whoever Bessie brings through. I don't know. She's been bringing lots of people to me nowadays. I think she found an open channel and is just helping y'all all connect. So listen, there may be parents. Wow, Cash, that's interesting. Look, there are a lot of parents who cannot see. There are a lot of parents who cannot see their faults because they were doing what was done to them. That's not an excuse, but it's just that they're just saying that you were chosen to be the generational curse breaker. You can break that curse. Gertie's here. Thank you, Gertie. Just like my own father could not see what was being done to me. Sometimes we are in this position on earth where we're just, oh yeah, that's it. I'm going to say this. We are in these positions on earth where sometimes we're just struggling to survive. I'm one of those people who has been stuck in fight or flight my whole entire life. Just like many of your parents were. Grandparents. But you are a powerful person. You are able to be the one that will break that generational curse and that generational trauma that has been stored in your cells, your ancestors' cells for millennia. This is the dawning of a new day. This is the age of Aquarius. This is the time to break free from all those curses. They're not curses. They're traumas. And you don't have to believe that someone cursed you to live in a mental prison. Don't go back to that. You don't have to be in that place anymore. You have transcended far beyond what they could. Some of them saw the error of their ways. Some of them never can. But y'all are standing strong in your power. And it's good timing, let me tell you, because thank you, Miss Joan. Yes, thank y'all all for sharing. I'm trying not to get lost in comments because there are people coming through. So, Miss Joan, I'm the same. I agree with you. I'm not a fan of trauma, but going through it has brought you a lot of gifts, and me too. I want to talk to okay, there's some people here who say that there are people in this collective who are still struggling. That's why that message is so important. Thank you. Thank you for that. There are still some people stuck in that restaurant, stuck in that fence, like the billy goat. Stuck in the restaurant at 5. There's still those inner children that hurt and that wonder why. Why did that happen? Well, there is purpose in your pain. Turn your pain into purpose. Turn your pain into power. It's time. Thank you. Thank y'all for being patient with me. There are children inside of us all. All of us. When we reconnect with that little child who didn't get what she needed or what he needed, and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and real and raw with our own children, with our own partners, with our own family members, we heal all of that on a cellular level. And it doesn't have to carry on to our children. There's something else about nature that I have seen. And that's why I'm so reluctant to cut down this rotten tree that has given my pecan tree and all the others on my land such grief. And this comes at a time where it's so poetic, and you can just see the parallels between my own life and this tree, and along with my brother struggling, just taking everything from every family member, all the time and energy and money, everything he can get from everyone, sucking the life out of everyone around him. There's a reason that I'm having such a hard time getting rid of this tree in my own yard, because it symbolizes my brother, rot and disease. And I just feel like you can have a couple of rotten years but come out of it. But not if you don't choose it. This tree has chosen to rot beyond recognition and beyond repair. Just like my brother. I know that there will be a time when I bury my brother. I have come to that realization. And I have tried to accept that. And it's so hard for me to understand how I fight so hard to live and still go through so much pain every day and so much sickness. And he is making himself sick. He is actively choosing to slowly die, to slowly decay, just like that tree. And I've held on to that tree thinking this pecan tree can give him something that he will never see coming. She's going to fix it. She's going to fix this. I have seen those images of trees that have rotten years. And then they grow past it. They grow through it. But in order to grow through it, you have to go through it. And if you're not willing to go through it, then you can't grow through it. My pecan tree she's the biggest tree on our land. She's the oldest. She has an elderberry nestled in her root system. And every time I connect with her, I get this energy and this feeling. And I, at one point, wanted to believe in the spring, she told me she wanted a divorce. And I thought she was telling me to get a divorce. And I thought, girl, you've lost your mind. I can't do this. I'm like, trying to figure out what she's saying. She wants a divorce from the tree next to her. And I've always thought trees were much more majestic than that. And much more, synergetic. But I realized she has given everything she had to give and more. And now he keeps taking from the saplings on our land. This rot and this disease does not have to be her journey too. And maybe this message is coming for you. That rot on the land does not have to affect future generations to come. It doesn't have to remain in the cells, in the branches, in the roots. You don't need to know why. You just need to know that you weren't responsible. You weren't responsible for it in any way. But you are responsible for today. And what you choose to do for today. You're grown now. You have power. You have magic within you that you can find and harness. Thank you, Cash, for sharing that. Yeah. Okay, so I'll say this is an interesting topic. Did they tell you anything about the future? Yes. So this is a historical time and space that we're living in. This will be referred to as the Great Awakening of the Pleistocene era. Or as Miss Connie dubbed it, the Evolution Revolution. And I love that because it sounds better than the Great Awakening of the Pleistocene era. But this is the time where people will wake up and see all the false imprisonment that they have been choosing. They will recognize that they are more than their human body. And there are several different ways that we can get there, but the outcome is the same. It is one of peace and unity and abundance. The earth has healed herself along with the people who chose to heal. And there is something that I think I can share now. There are several different ways that we can get there. And I have been shown that there are an infinite number of variables, and free will exists on earth. So there are several different ways that we can get to this pivotal moment and this point of unified utopia. And so there can be different ways that happens. It can be going through some not so great times. But I know that catastrophe and cataclysm do not have to happen. Some people may think that it has to happen to start anything new. Some people may think that everything is so far beyond repair that it has to collapse completely. But I'm telling you now that it doesn't have to be that way. Because people like me have been thinking for years about new ways forward and new systems to replace the old and how that can happen. So I don't want you to think that cataclysm and catastrophe have to happen for there to be new ways forward. I want you to choose this as your reality now. And if enough people choose it, then so it is. So here's something that I know. That our energy and our thoughts and our attention actually literally affect outcomes. And if you don't believe that, then put your mind to something. Say you want to find something and see if... Just watch the magic happen. Within days, you will find that answer. You will find that thing. Think of a feather or a rock or a gemstone. I know this weekend, I thought I would really like to find a heart-shaped rock. Or I would really like to find a red stone. I would really like to be aligned with all this planetary energy. And so I'm just going to show you what happened this weekend. Not only did we stay at 222 Good Hope Street after us not having anywhere to stay, I found, well, Olive actually has the one thing. But then, so I started setting the intention that I wanted to find heart-shaped rocks and red rocks. And so I'll be dang if this thing was not sitting in the driveway. Challenge yourself. I want world peace. I want a world where every child has somewhere to lay their head at night and a safe home. I want the earth to heal and be abundant like she always has wanted to. What do you want? Think about it. Think about how powerful and magical that is. We can do some crazy things by speaking things into existence. And if you don't believe me, you don't have to. Just try it yourself. I know that we all have the ability to do those things. Yes, where all lost children are found. Thank you for that. Where no child is experimented on. No child left behind in restaurants. No child left alone in the hospital. No child abducted or taken away, lost. I want all diseases to be healed. Speak it into existence. You have that power. And I'm telling you now, it is something that we can all do. If you're connected to me right now and we're talking about these things, challenge yourself. Start small and work your way up. You will be amazed at what all you can do. Okay, I've addressed this before, but I'll say it again. Do you believe that space people are coming to help us with our planet? I'm going to tell you that all the ancients are already here, and they are trying to help you. But you see, what happened is people stopped listening, and no matter how much they tried to help and talk, some people heard and some people didn't. But yes, I do believe that they are here now, and they look like me and you, and they are desperately trying to help. Don't think about, okay, so I want you to know this. There are no external saviors. We are the saviors. We are the doers. We are the creators. We are meant to create the reality and be the change that we want to see. Together, when we seek great change, we see great change. Love is the answer. Love conquers everything else. Okay, no one is coming. I want to be very clear. I'm connected to... I understand what you are thinking about as aliens. I want you to understand that all of that energy, all of that technology has been reverse engineered, and it has taken 2,000 years to lead up to this point where there is nothing else. They're using the same old playbooks because they don't have anything new. It's time to write new stories and have new energy. And we are the creators. We have to create the new stories. I want all of you to don't take my word for it. To find your connection and find your center. And if you need help, I will do that. I will help you in any way I can. But you have all the answers within you. A lot of people seek answers elsewhere and look for external saviors because that's what we were taught to believe. We were taught to believe that there was this external savior that would come and rescue us, or an external savior that we could give all of our problems to. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's up to you. And I'm also glad to tell you that it's up to you. I know that this new world is here, and it is tangible. It is here in existence. Enough people just have to choose it, and it will be there for those people. We are the ones we are waiting for, yes. So let me just say this. Does anybody want to share anything, like just something short that you have learned that you think may help other people, or an interesting story that you want to share? Or does anyone have anything that they feel called to share about I'm just going to stay silent for a second. There's still energies here. I'm going to ask now that if y'all have any questions for them. Otherwise, we thank you and we're grateful for you. We do have to create new communities for sure. And I've been warned about this because this is something that I've felt many times. I've felt called to like make a community, but I also have been warned that things can get culty, so be careful. I've also like thought about setting up this. I remember as a child, there was this place that we used to go, and it was called Piney Campground. And they had benches out in the middle of all these trees. And I remember that was the first time that I have felt very overwhelmed, like with nature and connection. And I've thought many times about creating something like that again. But I don't know that anybody could come. Like, I live in Tennessee, and we're all spread out all over the place. So I don't even know if that's, I just don't know where to go. I've always felt like that this was bigger than myself, and I don't know how to, I don't know how to go forward with it. I'm just doing what I'm led, because I know that sometimes, I think this time and space is what I'm thinking, and maybe I'm still faced with the duality of having like a 3D thing where I want something in this 3D world because that's what my mind recognizes. And God to share that we can stop what's to come in the next few weeks. Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, we can stop it. And I want us all to really focus on peace and world peace at that. And look, there's some bills that have been passed in my state. And while I recognize it's all a show, I still know that I'm an actress in this show, and I still have to act accordingly. Don't get so far removed, because this has been my message all along. Don't react, don't react. But then at the same time, we still have to act. And it's up to each individual one of you what you do with that and what you need to do with that. I have to let people know that tolerance is very important for me. Acceptance is very important for me. And love is also one of the things that I think is really important. And all these laws that have been passed recently in my own state are going backwards in time, but they don't have anything else. So I've reached out to my local people. And my dad always used to tell me, your words hold more power than you think. And I truly know that now. I know that. And if you don't know that you can speak things into your existence, try it. You will be amazed. Start small and then work your way up. And look, listen, you have a responsibility when you do that also. Like, you can't just say, I'm going to win the lottery. You have a responsibility to all of humanity when you think about the highest good of all. And part of me finding that red fire opal was so that I could share it and let you know how powerful you are. And let you know that you still have the same abilities that I have. Yes. Let's see. We are all gifted in different ways once we all do our inner work. Yes. I totally agree with this. Look, so, part of something that I realized at the time of my passing is that everything is a show, but also this can work out in a way to where if you realize this and understand it, then you can manipulate things around you. And we can use this, we can use our power for good. We can think about world peace and unity. And look, we can even think about a specific leader and recognize their wounds and how they are acting out of a place of hurt and fear and a need to be seen as something that they're not. And when we accept them and try to heal them ourselves, it does something to the universal code. There are universal laws that everyone has to obey. That's part of the unconditional love that's so hard. Loving people even though they don't think like you. Loving people even though you don't agree with them. Even though you think, how can they be so silly? You have to step back, and unconditional love doesn't mean that you're a doormat and you just let people walk all over you. It means that you love yourself enough to offer yourself the same amount of love and compassion and grace that you offer so freely to others. It's not a war. They are not adversaries. They are the sick tree. Yeah. Thank you. That's exactly it. And I think that it's not lost on me that the nature all around me is giving me parallels in my own life and showing me the analogies to share with you all. And part of that is knowing that you have gifts and each person does. They don't have any more power than you give them. I'm going to say this again. They do not have any more power than you give them. When you struggle to find a name to explain what they have done to you, or no, that happened for you to make you stronger, to make you more powerful, for you to push through. Stop giving your power away. It's important now more than ever that you go and listen to yourself and reconnect with that intuition, reconnect with once you're aligned with that unconditional love and you accept everyone and love everyone and you love yourself too unconditionally, then magic starts happening all around you. And you don't even have to work for it. It just happens. All right. I'm going to go. Don't be in prison. Don't be in a mental prison. Know that everything in your life happens for you and not to you. Sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes people are injured or they're acting from a place of illness. Don't let their journey throw you off and don't give them power. Don't try to name what they have done to you or what they have done. Don't try to give it a name. Because when you give it name, you give it power. My pecan tree is too great to be named. Be that. Be that magic. Be that change. Be that guiding light for every other tree and every other branch on your land. Offer that same amount of comfort and safety. And just try to look around you and see. Be present. Be present. Don't get stuck in the fence. Don't get stuck feeding a rotten tree. And don't get stuck in a mental prison. We all have power. I appreciate you, and I want you all to know that I receive each of you with gratitude, and I appreciate all of your time and energy that you spend with me. And I know that we help each other. And it's time to go and be the change in the world. You can make it through anything. I love y'all, and I will see you again sometime soon. Love y'all.